Hey, what's up? Uh, Compassion, empathy, selflessness. Those are three things that a lot of us have either forgotten about or we just no longer embody. I think that nowadays people are more preoccupied with being right at the expense of those three things I just mentioned. Um, Life is my teacher. You know, I look at life as a school. Anything, any circumstance, and anyone that you inhabit or um, experience can be your teacher, whether that be a child, that can be a cat, dog, bird, fish, you know. I've gotten into the habit of being present in the moments, you know, whether it be me going through a situation or me being present and observing a situation unfold. I'm always present in the moment. And through programming myself to being present in the moments that I encounter and experience, I'm able to see things from a different perspective. Um, I've found myself on more than one occasion playing the role of a mediator between individuals. Some are open minded enough to receive, some are open minded enough to be receptive enough to whatever it is that I have to contribute to a situation in order to move it forward and for all parties involved to extract some sort of a benefit from my interaction in said circumstance or circumstances. But they have to be receptive, because anything that don't penetrate ricochet. Do I have all the answers? Hell no. Do I have a plethora of answers? Absolutely. Because I've been through a plethora of circumstances and situations in my individual life. And I've extracted the lessons from said situations and circumstances. I happen to be, I'm going to say, fortunate, because everybody that goes through circumstances and situations in life don't always extract the lesson from what it is that they encounter and go through, only to be doomed to repeat said circumstances and or situations. What am I talking about? I'm talking about the capacity for any of us to put ourselves aside, even if it's only far enough to be able to see where somebody else is coming from based off of the circumstances and situations that they may be currently going through. Because then and only then, if you embody the ability to set yourself aside, can you exercise the empathy and the compassion to see things from another's perspective and position. With that being stated, I'm going to get the disclaimer out of the way. My content's for educational purposes only. Can't stress enough for you guys to do your own research. I praise my content. Any errors you find, throw in the comments, because none of us have been alive long enough to know all that transpired in the past, and none of us can live long enough to know all there is to learn. We happen to live in a society today where we've been overly desensitized and we're overly vain collectively. It's all about me, me, me. What about me? Yeah, I hear, that a meteorite fell out the sky, landed on her daughter or son or nephew or niece, and they're mourning the loss of that loved one. But I got an ingrown toenail and I'm in pain right now, so fuck them. What about me? This is the kind of shit that I see, and no one seems to see the issue nor have an issue with that or those types of circumstances unless and until it hits their front doorstep. That's a problem that we need to eradicate. First of all, we need to identify it, embody the capabilities to deal with it, as well as eradicate it. Because the same way we've witnessed some of our fellow brothers and sisters gunned down, by police or, by some of these idiots, You can't have, well, you can. You can have the position, well, fuck that nigga, I don't know that nigga. But what happens or what changes when it's your son, your daughter, your niece, your nephew, your mother, your father, your cousin? Because if they do it to one of us, they'll do it to any of us. And if you have no compassion or empathy for the next person, how can you expect for somebody to have it for you? I've said it numerous times in the last 72 hours. The same shit that you fling or sling, you're going to eventually have to smell it yourself. What does that mean? The law of energy. No. I forget the actual law it is by name. But the law that I'm I'm speaking of is described as, you know, what is it? Compensation. Compensation. The law of compensation, I believe, where it states that, you know, the pendulum swing to the left is the same length and circumference as the pendulum swing to the right. You know, you put it out, it's got to come back. So if you're putting out, you know, a lack of empathy, a lack of compassion, selfishness as opposed to selflessness, then eventually you're going to have to endure that yourself. Because it's the same thing that you put out. The same exact thing you put out. You know, since I started this channel, one of my first 3 to 5 videos, you can go back and check. Prove me wrong if I'm lying. Where I stated that, what was it that I was about to say? Yeah, got the sage burning. If you know, you know. I can't exactly remember what I was about to say. My forethoughts got caught up in my train of thought. So I'm gonna move on. When it returns, I'll speak on it. But at the end of the day, man, you know, like I said, if they'll do it to one of us, they'll do it to any of us. You know, on top of that, you know, show me where we've had a friend and I'll shut up. I happen to be an individual that studies, that researches history. And throughout our history, we have had no friends. I was first, you know, turned on to that by John Henrik Clarke. You know, everybody that we've been a friend to has been a foe to us, with the exclusion of none. So at what point are we going to realize that we're all we have? You know, but just like with the Haitian Revolution, all of us are not, you know, interested, nor have care and concern for the forward movement of us collectively as a nation. History is where you're going to find. Yeah, history is best qualified through research. That's one of the sayings that I have been known to quote. And it's a fact. You know, if you don't know what transpired in the past, then how can you enter and overstand where things need to be as far as your actions are concerned in order to bring about the destination where we need to be at in order to reclaim our rightful positions and birthright in this de facto state of government that we're in. How can we regain the respect of the world that we once had? Not to say that that's important, because the only thing that's important is the evolution of your soul. You know, because people don't have to disrespect you not to respect you. Don't let that go over your head. People don't have to openly oppose you to be your enemy. You know, again, getting back to the subject matter, which is empathy, compassion, and selflessness. You know, I don't know if any of you guys have ever heard this statement that I'm about to make. I've heard dozens of individuals that have their own platforms say this. And it's a fact. Based off energy, vibration, and frequency. Each and every one of our lives are a result of, or a manifestation of, the energy that we put out, emit, project. So if you've been putting out a lot of fucked up energy, what do you expect to receive in return? I don't give a damn if you've been getting away with it for years. You're not in control of how the negative karmic debt that you've accumulated is paid. You're not in control of that. Then, as it relates to compassion, empathy, and selflessness, how do you know that you're not being tested? How do you know that you're not being tested when a situation arises where you have the opportunity to be there empathetically, compassionately, and selflessnessly for someone external to yourself? It just may very well be a test that you have to pass in order to receive your blessings. You know, because again, we got a lot of frauds. We got a lot of, people wearing facades, people faking and acting as if they're somebody that they're not. You know, you can fool half the people half some of the time, but you can't fool all the people all of the time. And you damn sure can't fake your energy. You know, you can't fake what's in your heart. This is just something for y'all to think about, man. You know, I know a lot of people are, caught up in the societal ways of today and what everybody else is doing. Well, ain't nobody else caring. Ain't nobody else doing this. Ain't nobody else doing that. Okay. Since when has your life been based around or on what everybody else is doing? And if it is based off of that, maybe you need to check yourself, because everybody can't account for your actions. Everybody can't pay the karma you rack up, good or bad. Well, let's say bad. Because if you're racking up positive or good karma, i.e. dharma, then you're going to be rewarded. You're going to be blessed. You're going to be compensated. Everybody has their own perception. Everybody has their own course to walk. Everybody has their own life to live. And in the words of the good brother Dane Calloway, I'm just one of the people that's here to make you think, to inspire thought, to give you a different set of lenses to view reality from. Again, man, I know some people view the types of conversations that I have with you guys as corny. Well, what kind of sucker shit is my man on? What the fuck done got into him? Hey, man, all I can say is this, man. I've always been a people watcher since I was a child. I observe. I pay close attention to detail. And I've seen death. And all I can tell you is, from someone that has observed death, when a person is in the throngs of death, you can just about tell when the veil is lifted and they're able to see things that I and others speak about on these different platforms about the unseen. It's been scientifically proven, first of all, you can look this up, that we're only able to see around 2 to 5% of what's around us. Not to mention the fact that I don't know the percentages, so I'm not going to pretend to, but based off my observation and analyzation, it's not many of us that understand the fact that we're not the body that we inhabit. We're not the body that we inhabit. That's another thing you can look back on. My very first video, I said it. Who you looking at in the mirror ain't the real you. It's who you've grown to love. The things that are in this third dimensional realm and reality. No, I'm not going to call it a reality. I'm going to call it just what it is. This third dimensional physical realm. We've grown to love, adapt to, become attached and addicted to, but we forgot from which we came. How do you think this flesh and bones, organs and blood, how do you think it has life? What do you think it is that gives it life? If you were to weigh an individual prior to his death and immediately after he flatlines or she flatlines, you weigh them again and they weigh the exact same amount. What is this thing called life? Or what is it that gives life? These are the things that a lot of us seem to not ponder on. We don't have the proper, in my opinion, we do not have the proper relationship with death. We're not reminded enough about death. You know, I think it's healthy for all of us to be reminded as often as necessary in order for us to keep ever present at the forefront of our minds that one of these days it'll be your turn to transition. I think that it's an absolute it's an absolutely necessary conduit for one to keep the ego in check. One of these days, we all gonna have to entertain this individual right here. I'm gonna turn him to the side so you can get a good view of what it's depicting. If you know, you know. But one of these days, you're gonna have to encounter that individual. And your heart is gonna have to be placed on a scale alongside the feather. And that's going to tell the tale of what you did and how you lived this life. I know a lot of y'all don't understand what's really going on as far as this corporate government that we're under. That in and of itself is ass backwards because we the people. See, I'm a people. I'm not a person. Understand the definition. You know, we the people are who is spoken of in the Constitution, not corporate persons. Whether you know it or not, you classify and deem yourself to be a person, you're a corporate person based upon the way this corporate government is set up. That in and of itself brings about a multitude of ramifications and consequences. While I'm on the subject, I got to talk about these debt notes, Federal Reserve notes. You know, it's important that at some point we all individually do our own legwork, research, and homework on the society that we've been born into. I can promise you that if you do said research, you won't look at shit the same. Do I expect everybody to do it? Hell no. I know some of us are absolutely happy with the way things are and the way things are set up. Whether we understand what that is or what it is that they tell us. Because people that are in power over you will never give you the knowledge necessary for you to liberate yourself. There's plenty of times I done told y'all on previous videos that all these corporations are nothing but the new plantations. They rob you of your time, your energy, and your efforts, and they steal a massive portion of your labor. How many of y'all know that your labor is a part of your personal property, not to be taxed? How many of y'all know the 7 elements that must be present in order for a contract to be legally binding? And if all of the 7 elements aren't present, the contract is void. Not voidable, flat void. How many of y'all even know the significance of the 14th Amendment? How many of y'all know that in 1938, they transformed public law into public policy? And even with me saying that to you, how many of you guys understand the significance of it? All I can tell you is that it's relative to you citing case law in a so-called court of law. How many of y'all actually know that the corporate United States was purchased by a small group of foreign private bankers in the late 1800s? If you happen to be one of the ones that don't know of any of the things that I've spoken about, how many of you guys, before I even get into that, know about House Joint Resolution 192? If you don't, then the odds are you have absolutely no clue as to the way government is actually and realistically operating. We the people, men, sentient men and women, because even though the women weren't present, women always play a part. Well, that's before things got to be the way they are today. You know. Anyway. All that said to basically say this, man, you know. A lot of us are disillusioned to the absolute truth as to how things are ran, how things apply, and the ramifications of not knowing the aforementioned. Because one of the maxims of law is that ignorance of the law is not an excuse nor a defense. Yet they don't teach law. They don't teach financial literacy. They don't teach banking. You know. See, there are not enough critical minds. There's not enough critical thought in today's world. So many of us are just willing to go along to get along. We don't challenge nothing. We accept whatever others decide that we deserve. So, case in point, man, getting back to the original subject matter, empathy, compassion, and selflessness, man. Those three things will put you in the direction of love. Love not only for yourself, but for your fellow man, woman, and countryman. If that's even acceptable, However, man, if you don't have these things for yourself, you're incapable of having it for someone external to yourself. So, the point behind this message would be, work on yourself. Get to know yourself. I'm not talking about how you look, what you adorn yourself in. I'm talking about getting to know the inner you, the real you. Because the real you is not what you see in the mirror. The real you is what's within you. Because that is what's going to dictate, that is what dictates who and what you end up becoming, how you deal with others, how you deal with yourself. We need to stop focusing so much on all things external to self. What are we willing to sacrifice? So, again, man, I just decided to make a video to not only share my thoughts, to not only inspire critical thought, but to hopefully bring some type of benefit through the words that have been spoken in this video to someone external to myself. Hopefully this video resonated. even if it only resonated with one individual. The intentions for this video has been met. And with that being stated, I wish everybody peace, love, and light, happiness, safety, abundance, and prosperity. So, with that being stated, y'all be easy. And I hope this reached the right person that it was meant for. Peace.